Hey, folks, welcome back to another edition of Bolt Blitz Uncut. You already know who I am. I'm Booga Peters. I'm the host of this menagerie we call Bolt Blitz Uncut. And tonight we have another special edition of the show. I've been trying to track down this guy and get him on a Bolt Blitz production of some kind for quite some time. So I can't tell you how excited I am to introduce, of course, the on-air talent and senior producer of the Up and Adams show, Matt Hamilton. How you feeling, brother? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I know, yeah, it's been in the works for a little bit. Glad we can make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, I know a lot about you, and I've even learned more recently. If you could just kind of talk about your path, because we've had a lot of people on this show since 2010, since I started Bolt Blitz and all the iterations of it. You have one of the more interesting paths in that you have the producer side. Oh, by the way, I work for NFL Films, did stuff with Mizzou football. I happen to also be a part of the scouting department for the Detroit Lions, and now I help senior produce one of the most successful NFL-related shows in the stratosphere. Tell people about your beginning and how this all came to.
Yeah, so it started. I'll go back to you mentioned Mizzou football. I was a student at Mizzou and got an opportunity to be a student coach for there, and I just happened to get assigned with the quarterback. So that was when Chase Daniel, former Chargers legend, uh, was there, and I couldn't have been luckier to get there at the time that I did, to get to work with him, because again, the reason he had the long career that he had was he was absolutely brilliant and knew how to
Yeah.
play the position better than anybody I've been around, and that's why as an undrafted guy you can last 14 years in the league.
It was
So
14.
yeah,
Golly, I forgot it
yeah,
was that long.
yeah. So yeah, I got really lucky to work with him. Worked for with Blaine Gabbert for a little bit. Actually, under our quarterbacks coach at the time was David Yost, that I learned under. He went on to coach Justin Herbert at
Yeah.
Oregon. So really lucky with that. Ended up coaching high school for a couple of years. Got an internship at NFL Films. I don't know if you remember the show Playbook.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
all. Yeah, so that was my first job in TV, was working on Playbook with Sterling Sharp, Joe Theismann, Baldy, Matt Millen. Um, so yeah, so they needed somebody in there. I didn't really know much about TV production at the time, but they needed somebody that could watch tape and know what they were looking at and kind of help guide concepts for the show, because it was all back then. It was before you could get all 22 access as a fan. So this was our way, the NFL Network's way of giving the fans some access to that content. Um, so learned the TV side once I got in, and then a couple of years later, the opportunity came up. I heard they were launching Good Morning Football. I'm from the New York City area. It was a chance to go back home, be a part of an exciting project, and never expected that to go where it did. And then yeah, when Kay left, got the opportunity to go over to FanDuel, and it's been an interesting ride. Oh, and the stop with the Lions in between. Yeah,
Yeah.
2013, was working in the Lions scouting department for a little bit. So that was the year they had just signed Reggie Bush. Calvin was there. Sue was there. It was Jim Schwartz was the head coach at the time. I mean, that roster was just absolutely loaded. Was incredible to get to be around those guys every day. I actually found my notebook the other day. Stafford was 25 years old.
Oh,
Dating
man.
myself there too. But yeah, Kellen Moore was in that quarterback room too. I loved him. I was advocating for him to make the roster because, again, like, it reminded me of Chase, and that he's a guy that just had this incredible mind for the game. And while, I actually got to talk to him we were down at the owners meetings in Phoenix in March, and I got to talk to him a little bit about that. And I was like, you were one of the best anticipatory throwers I've ever seen. He was like,
100%.
I had to be, because I didn't have an arm.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, but no, it was yeah, that was an incredible experience.
No, I love that you brought up Kellen Moore. Oddly enough, I was a high school football official in the state of Washington, in Walla Walla, Washington, and just down the road was Prosser High. Well, a guy I officiated with, Kelly Richmond, had all the passing records at Prosser High. Lo and behold, a couple decades later, this guy Kellen Moore comes along and breaks all of them. It just
Oh wow.
blows them out of the water. So weird 6 degrees of separation regarding Kellen Moore. It's an absolutely fascinating. We're Bolt Blitz happens to be huge fans of Kellen Moore. I can't necessarily say the entire Chargers fan base is, but People know how I feel about the fan base as a whole, and it's not overly positive. Please like and subscribe, though, fans. It is what it is. Hey, we're talking AFC West, and I was kind of under the impression that you were a Chiefs fan. I'm off. You do work, obviously, for the KC Sports Network as well. But I do know this is right up your alley because it's NFL, it's football, and you've literally covered all angles of the NFL at this point. Let's start with the quarterback room. This one seems, fairly cut and dry to me anyway. I have no problem admitting that I have Mahomes first. Would you agree there? And then finish out the rest of the list.
Yeah, so I think Patrick, people have been taking knocks at his numbers and everything else that's gone on as the offense has had some issues around him. The way that he's elevated and kept that group competitive and really winning 2 rings with what he had around him offensively and finding a way to win is that the talent around him deteriorated. He's still number 1. Justin is second there, and I think I'm sure we'll get into him a little bit more going forward here, but I do think people kind of slept on what he did last year for the most part and willing that team to win with a decrepit offensive line and everything else that was going on. And I think he was on. I did one of my breakdowns for Up and Adams. I thought he was on an MVP trajectory before Slater and Alt went down. I thought he was playing that well. And for them to still make the playoffs with everything that went on, he deserves more credit for that than he got. And then I would put Bo third. I think this is going to be an interesting year for Bo with the switch to Davis Webb and Jalen Waddle in the mix. We're going to really see what Bo has this year. I'm excited for that. And then there's the Raiders quarterback room, which we'll get. I'm sure we'll get to at some point too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that? Well, we will get to that later. Sorry, that's at the end of it. Let's move to the next position group. I couldn't agree more with the exact thing. I want to say this about Bo Nix, and I'm kind of glad you said it kind of the way that you did. Chargers fans and Broncos fans have been feuding very much. Let's just say that. I almost said something way worse. This offseason about the Herbert and Bo Nix competition. I didn't know it existed until this offseason started. But I will say this about Bo Nix. Chargers fans have too low of an opinion of Bo Nix, and Broncos fans, in my opinion, as a collective, have too high of an opinion of him. Now, I do believe that what you said is absolutely 100% true in that you have a new offensive system there with Davis Webb and then adding Jalen Waddle. When you have wheels like that, I know he's slight in size and this and that, and he's going to come off the field a few times because he gets banged up. But when you can run like that and what they set up last year in a Sean Payton kind of driven thing, no matter what's going on, Bo Nix doesn't get enough credit from Chargers fans. But again, I think the Broncos fans have him pegged a little bit too high.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot to prove on his part. I think it is wild how divisive he is. I feel like people either love him or hate him. They're either too high on him, too low on him.
Yeah.
I'm excited this year, though. I think with what he's going to have around him, we're going to get a real good sense for what he is, because I think there were problems with the offense as a whole last year that held him back a little bit too. And like you said, the way he was able to overcome that, they went through these stretches of games. It wasn't dissimilar to watching Caleb Williams with the Bears when you're watching this offense for stretches and like what is going on, and then in the fourth quarter they're just able to turn it on and win games. So want to see some more consistency this year. But yeah, I think I think Bo should get a little more credit generally than he deserves, but still plenty to prove.
Listen, I am plenty glad that he doesn't play like that for all 4 quarters, because the way he finishes out games, a la Caleb Williams as well, those guys they have that clutch gene, they have that closer mentality, and I think that's incredibly important in this NFL. You see so many 1-score games, and when you have a guy at the helm who can kind of keep everybody steady, drive you down the field, get points in crunch time, I think that can't be overstated as far as its importance as far as winning games in this league. Let's go to the next position group here, the running back room. I like this one. I'm not going to fish anything out there to start, but who do you have as the number 1 running back room in the AFC West?
This is the toughest one, I think, because I think they're all really strong, and it'd be hard to argue with any order you put these in. I would say right now, when you're looking at the totality of the room, I would put the Chiefs number one right now with the addition of Kenneth Walker, with the different types of playmakers that they have there now too. DeMercado gives them some good depth. I think Rashard Smith showed a lot of good things as a pass catcher, third down type of back last year. And then the addition of Emmett Johnson, he looks tremendous, the rookie out of Nebraska. So
Yep.
I would put the Chiefs first right now, but I would put the Chargers a close second based on what I think is going to happen this year, not necessarily what we've seen so far. But I think we're going to see a big, big year for Amari and Hampton with Mike McDaniel calling the shots offensively. And I think the Keaton Mitchell addition was significant there too. He adds, I like the mix of players in that running back room. I would put the Raiders third because of the Genty factor.
Yeah.
But I do. The Broncos are a good fourth. You know, the Dobbins health is always going to be a question mark. But now with the addition of Jonah Coleman, who just hearing rave reviews from him. I loved his tape coming out of college too. I think that was an absolute steal for them. And then RJ Harvey is the pass catcher. It's a deep room with a lot of guys who can hurt you. So, you know, I put them fourth, but as I said, I think it is a tight race between those four rooms.
You could argue any of them, like you opened the segment with, and it's kind of funny because if you look at the rest of the NFL, I think you could also argue that the AFC West has the greatest and best stable of running backs in the entire NFL per division right now. I forgot about RJ Harvey, and I'm not sure. Yeah, he ticks me off. And Jonah Coleman, I didn't pay a ton of attention to running backs this year because obviously Omari and Hampton already had Vidal in tow, and then obviously Mike McDaniel put a wanted sign up for Keaton Mitchell, so it felt as though that was going to come to fruition. But that Denver backfield, they may not have that number one that's as strong as the other three teams. Well, overall, like you said, it's a really strong unit. Put some shares into the AFC West running back room in fantasy football, people. The wide receiving core, I think this is one of the more interesting ones. The running back room was the hardest for me to order out to. And by the way, I agree exactly with your order there as well. The wide receiving core, I'm very interested to see where you're going to start here and which one in the AFC West do you believe has the most predominant, most threatening wide receiver room to opposing defensive coordinators.
Right now, I'm going to go with the Broncos. I think with the addition of Jalen Waddle, Pat Bryant is having an outstanding camp. They are incredibly high on him. I think we're going to see him take a huge step. Cortland Sutton is still there. It is a deep room. It was a deep room last year, but they were missing kind of that top end guy that puts fear into the defense, and they have it now with Waddle. So I have to go with the Broncos at number one. I'm going to put the Chargers at two there. Ladd is, I know I don't have to tell you guys about Ladd and how good he is. QJ has shown some improvement. I know he is, a divisive guy as well. But there are signs of him taking steps forward if he's able to stay on the field. Trey Harris is the big wild card here for me. If he can take that step forward, then this might be the best receiver room in the division. But we need to see it. We still need to see it out of him after what was a pretty quiet rookie year. But I believe in the potential. I liked his tape at Ole Miss a lot. So I'm high on his potential and what he's able to accomplish. Just we got to see it on the field. I'll put the Chiefs third. There's a lot going on in that room. I know. But I think they got again. I think the Chiefs had an unbelievable draft class, and I think Cyrus Allen just looks like a complete and total steal. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they'll use him, how much he gets on the field right away. But I think, by midseason, by next year, he's going to be a significant part of the offense. Jalen Royals has shown some good things this preseason after not really seeing the field last year. Obviously, Rasheed, when he is healthy and a free man, he's he's been awesome. But I don't know, the reliability factor there. And I think Xavier Worthy, I think the dip that he had last year had more to do with injuries than anything else. Seeing what he went through week one against the Chargers, he was never the same player really after that. So if he's able to stay healthy this year, there's a lot of potential in that receiver room. It's just the trust factor isn't super high. And
Yeah.
then that Raiders receiving room, I think, is a contender for the worst receiver room in the league right now.
It's right. I saw somebody who did an AFC West poll, and they didn't even include the Raiders wide receiving core. And there was
Yeah.
one Raider fan who's like, "Hey, don't forget Trey Tucker." No silence from the peanut gallery. Nobody chimed in and piggybacked off that one. I want to say the Pat Bryant thing and the Jalen Royals thing is like a double burn for me because I love them both coming out of college, but now they're playing in the AFC West, so now I get to see them twice a year. Not a big fan of that. I'm actually kind of glad we Bryant because I love to see these athletic, big body wide receivers who actually can get up and catch the ball. Maybe the opposite of Quentin Johnston, who's more of a yak guy at 6'4", big for nothing, as little guys like me like to call him. But the wide receiving room, I agree with you with that one too. I just Cyrus Allen, I hate hearing he's looking so good. By the way, I'm not surprised at all though. So many people have told me to look out for him.
When I threw on his tape, because I admittedly going into the draft process, I don't get to watch everybody. I watch as many guys as I can, and especially the top guys, the guys we're going to be talking about on Up and Adams a lot. And Cyrus was somebody who flew under the radar for me. And after the Chiefs picked him, and I put on his tape, I'm like, what? What did I miss? What did everybody else miss? Why did this guy go in the 5th round? Because you're watching his route running. He's one of the better route runners I've seen, that coming into, out of guys that are in their first 3 years in this league. I would put him up there with pretty much anybody as far as his route running. And it was shocking to me to see where he went after going back and watching that tape.
He's one of those weird guys that slip through the cracks. He's so great at the stem. He's so great. Obviously, he's got good hips as far as getting his head around too. He's going to high point the ball if and when necessary. You got me there, by the way. I'm not sure how everybody just overlooked him, but he's going to be somebody in a couple of years. I agree with you. Probably not in the first half of this season, but as the season wears on, and especially in year 2 of his deal, more people are going to learn about that name for sure.
Yeah.
Now, here's one
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead, please.
maybe that's where like the over scouting comes into play, because none of the measurables stand out. The size doesn't stand out. The 40 doesn't stand out. None of the physical stuff really stands out, but it all hits the benchmarks. He's not undersized. He's not slow. He hits all the benchmarks that you put on the tape, and you're seeing him just route up everybody.
Everybody. I know.
I think they just overthought that one a little bit.
No, it's funny because, the Chargers have basically a group of 2s and 3s. They don't really have a true number 1 at this point. So we're constantly trying to find a number 1 for this team. Keenan, obviously, last year wasn't, somebody you consider a number 1. That's third in Keenan, quite literally. Third down guy, route dudes up, no speed, whatever. But Cyrus Allen will be somebody we're definitely keeping an eye on for years moving forward. He better not ever hit the market, too. Because if Mike McDaniel's still sitting around, he's going to find a way to get that guy involved, despite the non-elite speed and all that. And it's funny, we never don't just look for football players anymore, do we? We seek out traits so much more than anything now.
Yeah.
Tight end room. This was a fun one for me because if you look at the rooms overall, you probably know where I'd go with this one. But let's talk tight ends. And if we were to go with just one tight end who had the best tight end, you know who that would be. But go ahead and drop some knowledge on.
And this is a tougher one too. It's because how much do you weigh Brock Bowers being Brock Bowers in this, And that's where I would probably put the Raiders number 1 just because he's that good right now. I would put the Chargers 2 here. A lot of 2s for the Chargers in these, but I love what they've done with this room. I mean, Gadsden last year was an awesome find with what he's able to do in the passing game. Bringing in Charlie Kohler from Baltimore is a big addition with what he can do as a blocker. And then you have Njoku as well. That is a deep, versatile tight end room, as deep and versatile tight end room as it gets. Yeah. So that's where it's like, if you're weighing the top end and what Brock Bowers can do, you have to put the Raiders first. But if you're looking at the overall quality of the room, the Chargers are right there. I would put the Chiefs 3rd just because Kelsey still had an excellent year last year. I know he's not what he was, but he's still performing at a high level relative to other tight ends. The issue is I don't see a tight end in that room that is a strong blocker.
They
and
don't
it's all kind of the same type of tight end. So that's a concern, especially if this Chiefs offense is evolving the way it probably should with Kenneth Walker, and we can get into that a little bit later, but
yeah.
uh they're going to need a blocking tight end in there. So it may be a work in progress. So we'll see what happens around cut day, but I have to put them third right now. And then I put the Broncos fourth. If there's one weakness, one thing from camp that seems to be a concern amongst everybody out there, it's the tight end room, and it's not totally for lack of talent, but Evan Ingram hasn't really distinguished himself, and they they don't have anybody they feel it doesn't seem like they have anybody they feel great about in that tight end room right now.
Well, and Ingram, he's athletic and he's got great agility for a tight end, but he can't stay healthy. And like you said, he hasn't really been making a ton of plays at this point in his career. This isn't like when he was with Jacksonville and then the brief stint with the Giants there. But yeah, this was a tough one for me too at the top, because even though I kind of tried to segue into the fact I had the Chargers number one because of who Brock Bowers is, and I'm still a big Michael Mayer fan. I would love for him to hit the market somehow, because I'm an old school 3 yards in a cloud of dust guy. I mean, we ran I formation in youth football. We went 9-1. Like we were 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So give me a tight end one who's a true tight end as opposed to a wide slot, and Daddy's happy. But that's it. I think that the tight end group, as far as the AFC West is concerned, is kind of a mismatch regarding people want to go after the Chargers names, but I don't understand at this point what that share is going to look like between the three of them until this season kind of develops. I mean, myself and Taylor Bloom, who's also a co-host producer on this show and then the host of the Electric Edge podcast, we truly believe Charlie Kolar is going to be tight end one on this team, just because of the fact that you're not giving away whether you're running or passing when Kolar's on the field. Same with Njoku. Now with Gadsden, they'll probably flank him to the slot a lot of times, to be quite honest. But he's just more of that wide slot. But that being said, his drop-off last year and the competition in the tight end room would say, if you're going to go after a Chargers tight end in fantasy football, Oronde Gadsden would be who I would go after. I tried to lean towards Njoku. I just think that that's a crowded room, and Kolar's going to get too many looks, so to speak. The offensive line group, listen, I'm all right with conceding to the Broncos if you're all right with me conceding to the Broncos. But how do you have this group in the AFC West breaking down?
Yeah, I would go Broncos one. It's such a strong group across the board, and Quinn Miner's kind of the anchor of that thing has been tremendous. That's wild too, because he was one of my last years with GMFB. He was like, we had like a prospect weekly check-in, and he was our guy, and he wasn't, really that high up on the radar. He was just an interesting personality. It was somebody who I'm trying to remember who flagged him to even make him like our guy that we were gonna. He had a pet snake. He was just an interesting dude from a small school with a great mentality, and to see him blossom into this star has been really cool to see. But yeah, I'd put the Broncos number one. I'd put the Chiefs number two right now. I know that there are a lot of questions about the right tackle position, and there are questions about the left tackle position because Josh Simmons right now not on the field again.
Ew.
But when he's out there healthy, he's phenomenal. I think, if they're able to keep him on the field, that's going to be a pick we look back on too. Like, how did you let the Chiefs get that guy? But that is a big question. Obviously, on the interior, they have one of the best interior lines in the league right now. So I would put the Chiefs too. The Chargers, I think, when healthy, have the best tackle tandem in the league right now.
When healthy.
Yes. That's obviously the big concern. We're already seeing so many injuries there, so I'd put them third, and then I would put Raiders fourth.
Yeah, I do like, obviously, for the Raiders, regarding the Raiders, the addition of Linderbaum, and then you already have Jackson Powers Johnson at guard, and then Colton Miller at tackle, a guy who I had a 5th-round grade on, and I was laughing and hollering when the Raiders drafted him in the first, who's literally developed into one of the best tackles in the league. Maybe a guy who's 5'7" shouldn't be evaluating offensive line play. I'm just saying, I did do a lot of trench work. I did like watching it, though.
We all get plenty wrong, but being able to admit it is the big thing, and a lot of people can't do that. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
Oh man, no, I wear mine with me, because if I don't point them out, everyone and their dog's going to anyway. Here's another one. This was the second hardest one for me to do behind the running back room is the collective defense of these four teams. And it was more in the middle as opposed to the first one. So you talk to me about your ranking for this AFC West defenses.
I have to go Denver number one right now. Defensive player of the year, Sertan, Benito, who has been a defensive player of the year candidate for the past couple of years. And one of the big things for me too is just almost everybody's back. Everybody that's starting on that defense was on the team last year. And I think we're going to see Janae Barron take a step up too this year. It's just
welcome. Sorry.
It's just such a complete defense. There's no hole really when you look at that defense from a talent perspective. And you get the continuity with the defensive coordinator as well with Vance Joseph. So I have to factor that into the equation. I'll put the Chargers second here. The talent we know is there across the board. Derwin's, I don't want to even say research, but just how incredible he's been since the early career injury stuff, it's crazy. I feel like we forget there was a time when people were wondering whether or not he was going to be able to play football again, and to see him be a perennial All Pro is just awesome. But yeah, the talent's still there across the board. The big question is going to be, the guys in that building, we were out there doing our training camp interviews, they all love Chris O'Leary. They think he's going to carry it forward. To me, we have to see it, because I think Jesse Minter is special. And we'll see if Chris O'Leary is able to take that torch and run with it. I'll put the Chiefs third here. It's an interesting defense in Kansas City. A lot of young players, a lot of turnover there. I think we are going to see a rejuvenated Chris Jones. From what I've been hearing, I like the Minnesota Lane pick a lot. I like Noel Williams, who they took in the third round last year. He's been coming along really well. I liked what he put on tape last year, and the early returns are good there. And then the R. Mason Thomas pick, he has really flashed this preseason. We got to see how he's going to hold up against the run. But they've added a real influx of young talent to this defense. That's exciting. Still not in the class of the Broncos or Chargers right now, but it's fascinating what they've done there, and getting a lot more youth and I think athleticism on the field. Peter Woods too. The athleticism he brings to the interior. I think we're going to see a step up there, and then the running team and the Raiders will be in fourth here. Yeah.
Will you quit reminding me what a great draft class the Chiefs had? By the way, every player you bring up, it's like shit. That's all from the same draft.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
No, and it's funny because the Chiefs cornerbacks now play for the Rams, but the influx of youth in very athletic youth. 2 to 3 years, we're going to be talking about this Chiefs defense in a completely different tone than we did last year, and we're probably going to talk about this year. Though I do expect, as the season wears on, for them to step it up and really start to grow into their roles. This is a fun one right here. Who's got it better than us having to judge the coaches? Everybody, because I didn't want to pick here because it's too obvious who I'm going to take. I live in Michigan, born in Michigan. I'm a Chargers fan. I'm going with Harbaugh, but let's go with your four, man.
Yeah, I think it's hard to put anybody but Andy Reid number one with the body of work. But this year is going to be a real test of his ability to adapt and evolve. And that's something he's done so well throughout his career. It's part of the reason Mahomes has had the success that he's had, was Andy's ability to change his offense and tailor it around Patrick Mahomes, which at the time, not a lot of people were doing. It was, you come in, you play our system, and that's it. You adapt to us. Andy was one of the first guys that was like, hey, I'm going to adapt my system to you. And he deserves a ton of credit for that. And the way that he's managed around it, losing Tyreek Hill, all of that, it's impossible not to put him number one for me. With all of that. The next one's tough too, because Sean Payton is a hell of a coach, and as is Jim Harbaugh. I have so much respect for both of those guys. I think I have to put Peyton number two.
Totally get it. Yeah.
Um, and I think, again, something I give him credit, the ability to step back and say, "Hey, I think Davis Webb running the operations of the play calling gives us a better chance." That is something I never saw. I never thought we would see him do. I'm still kind of stunned. I know he's going to be heavily involved in the in all of it still, in the play designing, all of it. But to have that foresight to say, "Hey, like at 62, maybe we're not operating with the best tempo. Maybe this guy can handle the operation a little bit better than I can." I think that says a lot about him, and you see how he gets the most out of every single team. But you could say the same about Jim Harbaugh, who I'll put third here. Um, the way he just came in and just totally changed the culture seemingly overnight, and they have this team, what should be in the mix for contention every year. We'll talk about that, but
Yeah.
man, they're right there. And I do think we see the Chargers take a big step forward this year. I mean, this is picking between those three is nearly impossible. And I am excited too for Clint Kubiak. I think he's a good young offensive mind. I remember when we were the first year we did our training camp tour and we're down in New Orleans and hearing all the players talk about Clint Kubiak, and they were telling us back then like he's going to be that guy.
Oh,
And unfortunately, he wasn't for the Saints, but we saw it last year. And yeah, so I think he'll end up being a really good head coach in his own right. But when you're talking about him versus three guys who are absolute legends, it's hard. He's got no chance right now, but he might be joining them one day. I wouldn't be totally shocked.
I love stories like that too, where you're talking to these players who see this young offensive mind. They're saying, "Hey, keep tabs on this guy," and then now look at him. He's the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, one of the most storied franchises in all of professional sports. Not too shabby, if you ask me. By the way, my realistic rankings are literally the same as yours. I can't put Harbaugh. If we're talking about NFL stuff right now, we're not
Yeah.
talking about way back to the San Diego Toreros and Jim Harbaugh. Right now, I need to see my guy Jim take this Chargers team. I know he did it with the 49ers, but this Chargers organization is in this fan group. We're dying for a playoff win and more. Because I don't know if one playoff win is going to be good enough for this fan base. They're growing real tired and real weary at this point. Let's get to some specifics about this division. Obviously, the Broncos last year won the division. They had the best record in the entire NFL at 14-3. Do you think that they can replicate that again, or do you believe that they're going to take a step back this year, considering how tough that AFC West schedule is?
Well, I know it sounds crazy to say about a team that went 14-3 and made it to the AFC Championship game and might have been in the Super Bowl if they had their starting quarterback, but I think they might even take a step forward this year. And
Oh,
maybe they don't win more than 14 games, but as far as their, ability as a contender, I really like what they've done, what they did they didn't do a ton, but they strengthened the areas they need to strengthen, like we talked about. They got that number one for Bo. I think this play calling thing is going to make a difference there. I'm hearing a lot more about tempo to this offense and things like that. So, and the Jonah Coleman ad, I think, is going to be significant for this running game, because when you look at, I mean, they won the game against the Bills. They didn't even try to run the ball in the second half of that game, and they found a way. But that's not how you want to operate. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore, even if Dobbins gets hurt. And as I said, the continuity that they have on defense, I think, you know, this team is just so strong, top to bottom. It's as deep a roster as you can get. So, with the addition of Waddle, with Bo Nick's continued development, with the change in the operational play calling, I think, I don't think last year was the fluke by any stretch of the imagination. It really, it's on Bo, and is he going to take another step forward? If he doesn't take a step forward, or if he takes a step back, then the door's wide open. But if Bo continues his progression, I think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender.
no, I hate to say it out loud much to anybody other than myself. I don't want to tell myself this either, but I don't know if I could see. I mean, shit, it'll probably be around 13, 14 wins again. Sean Payton, obviously one of the better coaches in all of the NFL, and they're stacked. I mean, arguably the best roster top to bottom in the entire NFL. And like you said, they didn't really lose any big pieces. The additions that they did really complement this roster in so many different ways. the Broncos are still here, regardless of the tight schedule and how tough it's going to be. Because the Chargers, for example, weeks 3 through 10 is one of the roughest gauntlets I've seen an NFL team have in a minute. But unfortunately, Chargers fans, the Broncos are here to stay, at least for now. I will say this about Bo Nix is whatever happens this year, he's going to earn it. If it will be because of him. If they go far or they even get to a Super Bowl, it will be because of the play of Bo Nix. Now, if they falter and they stumble, I really think it's all going to be centered around Bo Nix as well. So he's a very polarizing guy, which is kind of funny for a second-year quarterback. It's not like he's been around forever, but he's in the conversation for sure. Let's move back over to Kansas City right here. You know, we've said enough so far that I feel we both expect Kansas City to rebound this year. I mean, do you think it was just a fluke last year with the way that things kind of played out? Kind of some weird fluky stuff within the organization too? Or should Charger fans kind of get their hopes up and let's say, you know, see the Chiefs kind of falter a little bit, stay where they're at as opposed to making a resurgence?
Yeah, I think maybe this year we'll see the happy medium because I think 2024 in a lot of ways was really fluky that they had as good a season as they did because they didn't play particularly well in a lot of those games. They were just finding ways to win. And then it was like last year was the opposite. They weren't as bad as their record was, but they just weren't finding ways to win. So maybe this year we'll see that happy medium of an 11-12 win team, which is what I think they probably are right now. But I think a lot of it is going to hinge on, I kind of hinted at it earlier with Andy Reid, is the evolution of this team. Because with the addition of Kenneth Walker, we talked to him a couple weeks after the signing on up in Adams and asked him like, "Hey, are you more do you like running out of shotgun? Do you like running out of running from under center?" And he said, "I really feel more comfortable. I prefer being under center." And that's not really what the Chiefs have been doing. We've seen some signs in camp that maybe they're going to do more of it. Eric Bieniemy's coming in from just having worked with Ben Johnson. So maybe we're going to see a little bit more of it. But I think for this offense to get back anywhere close to what it was when Mahomes was operating at his highest level, I think we're going to need to see some more under center. And do they have it in them to do it? That's the question, because I think when you look at why this offense hasn't been explosive in the last few, it's not just because Tyreek Hill isn't there. It's because teams are just able to sit in these two high shells. They're not threatened by the run game at all. They're not threatened by, by a downhill run game at all. You don't have the play action pass element. So they're just able to play this deep shell and not let the Chiefs beat them deep. And now, if you're able to get something going with Kenneth Walker downhill, under center, and play action off of that, teams are going to be forced to bring a safety into the box. And then you're going to see, everybody doubting what Mahomes has left. You're going to see what Mahomes has if teams start playing single high against the Chiefs. So that's going to be the key to this Chiefs season to me is, can they get this run game going? And specifically, can they get it going under center a little bit more?
I blame me for the Chiefs signing Kenneth Walker. As soon as the Seahawks had made their announcement public, I was like, he's going to the damn Chiefs, isn't he? And just like that, I could see him like an under center. Back in my day, I definitely preferred under center because we didn't run any shotgun. We didn't have anybody who could snap it back there. But we didn't have any good centers back then. But the Kenneth Walker addition, I think, is huge for them. And when you look at Kansas City as a whole, it was kind of a weird year, at least in my eyes last year. And as much as everybody wants to, they're sick and tired of Travis Kelce and the Taylor Swift stuff, Travis Kelce's still getting open. If you've watched anything from training camp, and if you're a Chargers fan especially, you watch Kelce just roast the absolute shorts off a former Charger, Alohi Gilman. It was just a lookie, too. It was not – I mean, come on. Travis is 270, maybe 280 right now. And I'm telling you, Alohi shorts were here. Kelce was over there. It's just like, oh, brother, come on, man. I know Charger fans don't miss that. But let's get to the Chargers here right now. It's year 3 of Harbaugh and, of course, general manager Jim Ortiz. And still no playoff wins for Justin Herbert. Will this be the year that they finally get Justin Herbert his playoff victory? And are the Chargers poised to possibly win a second playoff game? Or should Charger fans just be happy with the opportunity to be there again?
I don't think they should be happy with the opportunity. This is a team that's built to win, and the expectation should be winning multiple playoff games. And I think when you look at Justin, it's tough because, like I said, I don't think he got enough credit outside of Sam Monson. who maybe gave him a little too much.
Right.
I don't think he got enough credit for what he did last year from the general public, because I think people just look at, oh, he didn't get it done in the playoffs again. But that's a team that, with how the season unfolded, kind of had no business being in the playoffs when you look at all the injuries and everything that went on. And I think the reason they made it was because of Justin. Obviously, the defense deserves a ton of credit too, but
Sure.
that was one of the worst offensive lines you could put in front of a
Ever.
quarterback. And for him to find ways to win with that in front of him, he deserves so much credit for it. But there is something, I think, objectively, like, there's something that happens in the playoffs and with him. And I don't know if that Jacksonville game stuck in his head. I don't know, because it seems like he presses a little bit too much. It seems like he just gets away from what made him successful during the regular season, especially when you go back to that Houston game. But really, that's the key. And obviously, it's way easier said than done. But the guys that you see have a lot of success, it's not that they elevate their game in the playoffs. They're the same guy when they get to the postseason. And I think I'm not one of these people that thinks like Justin is just, he's going to melt down. He doesn't have what it takes. No, sometimes it takes that one. You get that one under your belt, and you build, and you get that confidence, you get that off your back, and it goes from there. We saw it with Peyton Manning,
Exactly.
early in his career. So I'm not one of the, I'm never gonna say, oh, he just doesn't have, no. He just needs to figure it out. He just needs to get that one under his belt, and maybe they go on a run from there.
I think that's a perfect way to break it down too. He's just got to win one to shut people up. There's no way around it. And I think more than shutting people up, he needs it for himself. There is a bit of a, not that the scene is too big for me. I don't think that's the right way to put it, but just like, it's almost as though he is just too focused on the fact that, oh gosh, if we lose, we're out. Like, I can't, he seems tight. I don't know. We've all watched him in these last 3 playoff games, and it's not been a pretty sight. Just some heartbreaking stuff. That Jacksonville game at halftime, the Chargers are up 27-0. I shut off the TV. I turned the speakers off, and I looked at my children, and I looked at my girlfriend at the time, and I said, I just want you guys to know that we're about to have a lesson in how life is. I understand how certain this feels, but I have no doubt that there is no certainty in this game. If the Chargers end up losing, I want you to never forget this moment, because no matter how certain something seems, until it is certain, it is not. And lo and behold, my kids still bring it up at class. They're in high school talking about this stuff however many years later. Just that, no matter what it seems like, nothing's certain. All from a Chargers debacle against Jacksonville. Hey, man, let's get you out of here on this one. This is the last. I mean, we've done all other 3 teams, and why wouldn't we leave the Raiders for 4th one more time? The Raiders appear to be starting Kirk Cousins. Do you think this is a mistake, or do you think, obviously with the Tom Brady-led Raiders organization right now, that Fernando Mendoza is going to get that Brady treatment and probably sit behind Kirko until he can't, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I'm a big proponent of being patient with your quarterbacks.
Cool.
I know that hasn't been the trend of late. I don't care.
Thank you.
No quarterback has been harmed by sitting. Not one. And I can point to a lot that have been harmed by getting put into a horrible situation and forced to start from day one. The learning curve from a mental perspective is so great in this league, and it's hard to work on the things you have to work on physically, specifically for him going to an under center offense, which, we had him on during rookie minicamp. He told us, like, I'm not comfortable under center. And that was in June. So trying to get there physically, work on your mechanics, all that stuff while learning an NFL offense, it's really hard to do while you're also having to play games. Like, it's so much being thrown at these guys, and some guys handle it really well and it doesn't matter. They don't need to sit. But I'm telling nobody, again, it didn't hurt anybody to sit, and I feel like it has helped. I genuinely believe this. I don't think Patrick Mahomes would be the quarterback he is if he didn't sit. He looked totally different when he finally took in 2018 from what he looked like his last year at Texas Tech. He looked totally different. His mechanics were different. His processing, everything looked different. And that doesn't happen if you just throw a guy out there right away. So I think it's the best. I think it's a really smart approach. I think as long as you can afford to sit him out, because listen, even if he is great this year, what are the Raiders doing? This isn't going to be a
Right.
Big Ben situation or a Brock Purdy situation where you see a rookie pushing a team into a conference championship game. That's not happening this year. So what's really the payoff from putting him out there right away? This idea that you need that experience, you need that experience to get better. No, you don't. There are a lot of other ways you can get better, and you want to put him in the best position possible before he's out there taking those live reps, facing those bullets. And I think it's a really smart approach, and I think it's going to benefit him in the long run.
No, I honestly, I think it for him especially. I forgot that he said that on the show. I actually was watching that one too, and I don't remember verbatim what he said. It was basically, I don't like it, or I'm not great at it, and I was
Yeah,
surprised.
I think it was I'm not great at it. Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of his personality, is the,
Yeah.
the overt honesty about, he's so humble. He's not afraid to kind of expose who he is as far as his weaknesses as well. I think down the line, he's going to be okay. But I think had they decided to start him from week 1 this year, honestly, I don't think that it would have gone out the way that Raiders fans would like. I think it would have been a little bit too much at this point. There's just so much going on. You talk about the differential between being a college quarterback and the NFL. It's almost like 2 completely different jobs. And that's not taking a shot at college quarterbacking, but it's a completely different stratosphere than the NFL. There's just so much going on. All these cats have mortgages and children and family. I mean, all this stuff, it is just a different field that you're playing on. Matt, I could talk to you all damn night because this was so much fun. I think we put a nice little bow on the AFC West, and I do this to everybody before we get them off the air. I got to have you back. I just don't want to wait 3 years this time.
No, we'll definitely make it happen sooner. This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
No, we had a blast, and I got to mess with you a little bit, man. Everybody knows I'm flipping shit at somebody around here. They think I didn't like it, but they give you a little bit of a hard time. On behalf of Matt Hamilton, on-air talent and senior producer of the Up and Adams Show, hosted by Kay Adams, I'm Booga Peters. This has been Bolt Blitz Uncut. We're out. Peace, guys. Love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in.